2/25/2014. Guys, before I get into the video, I want to update the local information on the X-flare. Now, the proton chart at ACE and the electron chart here have both risen up quite a bit. They seem to be leveling off, starting to, not dropping, but leveling off. You can see the energized particles that are affecting the LASCO C3 camera, which is an Earth-facing image, as well as the LASCO C2. Now, Stereo B seem to have taken the brunt of this. We'll watch this as it goes on the next few hours. But this is why I came here. You've seen the headlines where up to 25 kids in California have polio-like symptoms. And it says a polio-like syndrome has caused partial paralysis in 5 California children since August 2012. They're putting the health officials on high alert as up to 25 cases are being investigated. That goes all the way up to San Francisco Bay. Now, it says 5 children developed paralysis in 1 or more arms or legs that came on suddenly. It was most severe within about 2 days. 3 of the children had respiratory illness before paralysis symptoms began. That's important. None have seen improvement in symptoms and still have poor limb function within 6 months of diagnosis. Infants and people with weakened immune systems have a greater chance of having the infection spread to the heart and brain and are causing paralysis, the CDC adds. Now, guys, we've seen this before, and if you studied about our U.S. sailors that responded to the Fukushima disaster, this is exactly what happened. And I'm afraid that we're getting more and more radiation from Fukushima, and it started, guys, just a few days after the Fukushima incident in 2011. A year later, this starts showing up. Now, one of the things to remember is that the symptoms. We're dealing with respiratory illnesses. Now, what they're doing is these kids were first diagnosed with asthma or the flu and sent home with that type medicine. But it's got to do with this radiation. It says children are more susceptible to radiation injury because their cells typically divide more rapidly than those of adults. It goes to your DNA. Radiation therapy for cancer is one of the most common causes of local radiation injuries. It doesn't say it's the only one, and it's not. And if you pause this and read it, one of the things it goes on and talks about, radiation to the mouth and jaw, skin vessels, hair loss, the whole 9 yards. But radiation to the lungs can cause lung inflammation called radiation pneumonitis. Very high doses can result in severe scarring, fibrosis of lung tissue, exactly what they're talking about, which can cause disabling shortness of breath and later death. The heart and protective sac can become inflamed after extensive radiation to the chest. High accumulations to the spinal cord can cause damage leading to paralysis, incontinence, and loss of sensation. Do you understand what we're dealing with, guys? Now, these doctors know this. They probably don't want to lose their license and talk about it. But I'm not a doctor. I'm going to talk about it. But and if you get radiation to the brain, here's some of the symptoms. And this total exposure is what we're dealing with. Water, air, food. I'm going to put a link to the article. But you can look at this list. But there's 3 R's down there, guys. You're talking about radiation necrosis, radiation myelopathy, and reduced vertebral growth. This is what we're dealing with. This is what's wrong with the children there. This is what's going to spread. Again, they don't want to talk about it. Radiation to the spinal cord can damage the myelin sheath that covers the spinal cord. Myelin is a substance that acts like an insulator and speeds up nerve signals. Damage to the myelin sheath can cause radiation myelopathy. This side effect can occur 2 to 6 months after radiation therapy. Guys, or exposure. It says the most common symptom is electrical shock down the spinal cord. It says it also can sometimes characterized by the Brown-Sequard syndrome, which is spinal cord damage, which may lead to gradual paralysis, weakness, or loss of sensation. That's what these kids are dealing with. It's a heads up on this, guys. Things are really getting serious. Think about what you do, what you eat. I know some people can't change where they live, or maybe they think they can't, maybe they could, but it's coming worldwide. It's all the way around the world. But there are new reports today of more debris coming in to the coast on the west coast of the United States, guys, from Fukushima. And they're talking about a concentrated underwater plume of radiation that's approaching us, and they're saying because of the density that it's holding together like an underwater cloud. It's a heads up on this. We're going to watch the sun. We're going to keep an eye on this. Guys, we got a special radio show tomorrow on Block Talk at 11 p.m. Central. That's 12 noon. We're going to be taking callers. Don't miss it. Heads up.